From our Toronto studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Zahra Syed. Our top story tonight. Vice President Kamala Harris has strongly criticized Israel for its role in the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Speaking in Selma, Alabama on Sunday, she called for an immediate ceasefire and delivered the sharpest rebuke to Israel. Harris emphasized the need for action to address the dire conditions in Gaza, where over 30,000 Palestinians have been killed. She highlighted reports of severe food shortages, lack of medical care, and the deaths of children due to malnutrition and dehydration. She has urged Hamas to accept a deal to release Israeli prisoners, calling for a cessation of hostilities. She also called Hamas a brutal terrorist organization that poses a threat to Israel and should be eliminated. Her remarks are a significant departure from previous U.S. government stances, signaling heightened pressure on Israel to address the crisis. Renowned journalist Christiane Amanpour and other CNN staffers have voiced concerns over the network's handling of Israel's war on Gaza. According to a leaked recording of a meeting obtained by The Intercept, CNN staffers questioned a panel of executives about CNN protocols for covering the war in Gaza. They criticized the network's leadership for what they deemed biased coverage favoring Israel and a hostile environment for Arab reporters. Amanpour expressed distress over the editorial process, alleging double standards. One staffer can be heard saying he was in Lebanon during October and November, and it was more distressing for him to turn on CNN than the bombs falling nearby. During the meeting, employees highlighted the detrimental impact on CNN's credibility in the region and the safety of Arab journalists covering the conflict on the ground. Employees also raised the issue of routing almost all coverage relating to Israel and Palestine through the network's Jerusalem bureau. They said it not only slows down the reporting on Gaza, but filters news about the war through journalists who operate under Israel's military censorship. Earlier this month, The Guardian published an extensive story sourced with multiple CNN staffers describing the network's Gaza coverage as journalistic malpractice. Executives defended CNN's approach, citing challenges accessing Gaza. The New York Times is under fire for doubts cast on the accuracy of a December story about alleged sexual violence by Hamas. The controversy centers around a podcast episode based on the article being postponed for revisions. The investigative report, titled Screams Without Words, focused on sexual violence during the October 7th Hamas on Israelis. Criticism arose when it was revealed that Anat Schwartz, who had no prior reporting experience, collaborated on the article. Schwartz, along with Jeffrey Gettleman and Adam Sella, investigated the allegations. Schwartz's social media activity and questionable evidence in the report have drawn scrutiny. Despite efforts to verify claims, little evidence was found to support the allegations. The Times has initiated an investigation into the matters amid growing concerns over the story's integrity. It was also revealed that Schwartz, an Israeli filmmaker, is a former Israeli Air Force intelligence official. Schwartz contacted people at Kibbutz Be'eri and other targeted kibbutzim on October 7th, but reported finding nothing to substantiate the allegations. The Times story also referenced an Israeli woman, Yal Abdush, saying Israeli police officials said she was raped. However, her sister, Miral Alter, said in an Instagram post, there is no proof there was rape. Hundreds converged outside the Israeli embassy in Washington on Saturday, advocating for a Gaza ceasefire. They waved Palestinian flags, condemned President Joe Biden, and brandished banners for Free Palestine and against Israeli incursion. The protest commemorated Aaron Bushnell, a U.S. Air Force member who self-immolated in protest last week, expressing solidarity with Palestine. Organizers emphasized ongoing demonstrations nationwide, urging an end to Israeli occupation and U.S. aid. According to a survey released last week by Data for Progress, around two-thirds of American voters, or approximately 67%, support the U.S., calling for a permanent ceasefire and a de-escalation of violence in Gaza. That includes majorities of 77% of Democrats, 69% of independents, and 58% of Republicans. Mohammed Habeh, with American Muslims for Palestine, stressed persistence until justice prevails. Mohammed Qasim of the Palestinian Youth Movement called for a permanent ceasefire and an end to genocide in Gaza. Protesters asserted their impact on policymakers, vowing to maintain pressure until demands are met. Similar demonstrations were held across the U.S., underscoring widespread solidarity for Palestine. In the past 24 hours, Israeli forces have killed 124 Palestinians in Gaza and injured 210 others. The Palestinian Health Ministry reports that 13 massacres have targeted families in Gaza, with many still trapped under the rubble as rescuers struggle to reach them. According to the Euromed Human Rights, Israeli soldiers have been using tanks and armored vehicles to run over Palestinian civilians. Furthermore, Israeli warplanes targeted a makeshift cemetery in the Jabalia refugee camp. Director of Civil Defense in northern Gaza, Ahmed al-Ghahlot, told Anadolu news agency that the bombing has resulted in destruction and uncovered bodies beneath the soil. Israel detained 55 people during several overnight raids across the occupied West Bank. Lebanese media reports that Israeli planes targeted the towns of Hula and Markaba with phosphorus and smoke bombs. This is despite the International Court of Justice's provisional ruling in January that ordered Israel to ensure immediate and effective measures to protect Palestinians in Gaza from genocide. The court stressed Israel's responsibility to ensure sufficient humanitarian assistance and enable basic services, as well as the protection of civilians. Palestinian health authorities estimate since October 7th, 30,534 Palestinians, predominantly women and children, have been killed, and 71,920 others injured in the 150 days. Children in Gaza are dying due to malnutrition. Details come after the break. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. At least 16 Palestinian children have reportedly died due to malnutrition in Gaza, and health authorities are reporting a dire famine in the region. UNICEF warns of escalating child deaths unless the war ceases and humanitarian access improves. Gaza's media office reports that 2.4 million people suffer severe food shortages, with many children succumbing to hunger. Authorities say the situation is worsening in the northern and Gaza governorates, where many people are facing hunger, malnutrition, and dehydration. They say famine-like conditions are threatening more than 700,000 Palestinians suffering from extreme hunger. The media office blames the U.S., the international community, and the Israeli occupation for the crisis, accusing them of promoting a starvation policy. Gaza's health ministry also reports 1 million cases of infectious diseases without adequate treatment facilities. The U.S. said on Saturday that it carried out its first airdrop of humanitarian aid into Gaza, with more than 30,000 meals parachuted from military planes. Days ago, the Egyptian army said Qatar, France, Egypt, Jordan, and the United Arab Emirates also participated in an aerial operation to provide aid to Gaza. Experts say the airdrops of aid are ineffective and worsening the crisis. Dropping aid near buffer zones poses risks, leading to calls for alternative solutions. Experts warn that dehydration, malnutrition, and a lack of medicine caused by the Israeli blockade threatens the lives of thousands of children and pregnant women in Gaza. The Infant Intensive Care Department of Kamal Adwan Hospital in Beit Lahia, north of Gaza, is trying to provide care under difficult conditions. Recently, 2 more baby girls died due to a power outage in the hospital, resulting in a lack of oxygen. At least 116 people were killed last week when Israeli forces opened fire on Palestinians waiting for humanitarian aid south of Gaza City, local health authorities said. The Israeli war has pushed 85% of Gaza's population into internal displacement amid acute shortages of food, clean water, and medicine. Israel stands accused of genocide at the International Court of Justice. An interim ruling in January ordered Tel Aviv to stop genocidal acts and take measures to guarantee humanitarian assistance is provided to civilians in Gaza. The Supreme Court has unanimously ruled that Colorado cannot disqualify former President Trump from the ballot under the 14th Amendment's insurrection ban. The historic decision, which was delivered today, permits Trump to seek a second presidential term in the upcoming November election. This ends efforts by activists in various states to stop Trump's return to the White House by kicking him off the presidential ballot. This is for his attempts to undo his loss in the 2020 election to President Joe Biden. Analysts say the decision by the highest court gives the former Trump a significant legal victory on the eve of Super Tuesday. That is when he is expected to clinch the Republican nomination. Maryland's Frederick County Public School Board voted this week for schools to be closed on both Eid holidays next year. President of the Islamic Society of Frederick, Khalil Al-Shavli, told DC News Now this effort has been long overdue. The new school calendar, including the Eid holiday, will go into effect for the 2025 school year. The Maryland office of the Council on American Islamic Relations applauded the school board's unanimous decision to close schools for students on the Eid holiday. A Canadian anti-hate group has condemned the Canadian province of Quebec's highest court's ruling maintaining a ban on hijab and other religious symbols. The decision upholds Bill 21, which forbids public sector employees from wearing religious symbols, including hijabs, crosses, and turbans. Critics argue the law infringes on human rights, particularly affecting racialized religious communities. The ruling extends the ban to English school boards, who were previously exempted. Canadians United Against Hate founder Farid Khan criticized the court for disregarding the impacted communities' rights. Khan also criticized Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's government for not challenging the law in higher courts when it was introduced in 2019. The National Council of Canadian Muslims has vowed to continue fighting against the law, emphasizing the importance of civil liberties and religious rights. Former media director for South Africa, Mohammed Faisal Dawji, has denounced Western nations' stance on Israel's war on Gaza. He criticized Western hypocrisy on human rights, citing parallels between apartheid-era South Africa and current conditions in Palestine. Dawji emphasized South Africa's application to the International Court of Justice, which aimed to end Gaza's oppression and secure justice for Palestinians. Despite international pressure, Dawji affirmed South Africa's commitment to the case, urging accountability for Israel's alleged genocide. He noted a shift with the Global South rallying against injustice. Dawji has stressed the importance of holding perpetrators accountable, hinting at the need for a new international order. He also says neither Europe nor America, but rather countries in South America and Africa, are coming together against injustice. He's expressed the need for any country committing injustice to be held accountable. The Houthi group in Yemen has accused the US and the UK of causing an outage in international communication cables in the Red Sea. They claim the naval units of these countries caused the disruption, jeopardizing global communications. The Houthi Ministry of Transportation has emphasized the importance of respecting international laws and treaties concerning maritime cables. Seacom, an international communications company, confirmed the outage in its infrastructure affecting traffic between Africa and Europe. Houthi accusations come amidst ongoing airstrikes by the US-led coalition targeting the Houthi sites in Yemen. The Houthis have declared American and British ships as military targets and linked their cessation of attacks to an end of the war on Gaza. Israel continues its offensive in Gaza despite international calls for restraint. Saudi Arabia has reportedly banned iftar in mosques ahead of Ramadan, citing concerns about cleanliness. The Ministry of Islamic Affairs last week issued a notice urging imams and mueddins, or those who call to prayer, to find appropriate places for iftar in the courtyards of the mosque. It further said no temporary rooms nor tents should be created for this purpose. The ministry has stressed that mosque imams and mueddins should not collect donations for serving iftar. The imams have been asked to discourage the use of cameras and photography inside the mosque premises, and prayers should not be broadcast on any form of media. That's all from our Toronto studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon for the latest updates. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Assalamu alaikum and good night.